Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A very warm welcome to all our listeners. You are listening to Café, Ikhwan every Tuesday, 10 o'clock on MP Radio. There's no frequency because this is an internet radio station. So I welcome all our listeners. Assalamu alaikum again. This is your brother, Ahmed, going live from an undisclosed location. As long as we're still on air. I'd like to also introduce and welcome with me today on the panel, as always, two members from the Security Council. Not one, unlike last week. We have two members from the Security Council. I'm going to ask last week's guest appearance, Brother Zain, to tell us about his wingman who's joined us today on the show. And what name he's going by today. Brother Zain.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yeah, now I've got the main host actually for the Security Council here.
He's the main host.
The main host, yeah. About the introduction, I think I'll leave him to do his own introduction. But I'd just like to say welcome to the radio station.
Welcome to Café Ikhwan.
Welcome to Café Ikhwan.
Well, we're looking forward to this Security Council.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam.
Jazakallah khair for inviting me for today's show. My name is Khabbab, and as was mentioned, I will be on the Security Council show. So that's something also I am looking forward to very much. It should be very interesting.
And hopefully a lot of good fun. That's the idea of the Security Council. We forgot to introduce, of course, or inform our listeners today, Brother Khabbab, that we also have, of course, with us, as always, Mr. Producer, Brother Ubaid. Brother Ubaid, quick salam from you. Wa alaikum assalam. So Mr. Producer's, running the show, and he's, behind the scenes. He's taking care of the technical side of things. So we're not really going to bother Mr. Producer that much, and we don't want to forget about the mascot of the radio station, Mr. Bush. Okay, he's not part of your Security Council, chance, is he? Because he's a cat who's mostly hungry in this.
Well, I think he's part of every single show, is he not?
Well, if that's how you guys roll on the Security Council, then by all means, and just have him.
We have an open door policy.
Maybe he can. If he says meow, that's a vote in motion, right?
Indeed.
Okay, and silence is approval as well. I'm sorry. That's how it rolls on the Security Council. Okay, so today's show is not the Security Council. Today's show is Café Ikhwan, and we have a list of items. Brother Zain, you want to just give us? I'm not saying we're going to go through all of them because there's a lot of stuff to get through.
I mean, there's been a lot of things happening since we've come on last. One of the things that we really want to speak about, is America Ferguson and what's been happening there. In terms of, in the eyes of the police, civil disobedience, that's what they'll call it. But we also know that there's been a lot of, putting it mildly, mistakes, if you want to call it. But I wouldn't even call it mistakes. So there's some.
Brilliant. So we're going to talk about Ferguson.
Yeah. We got the US airstrikes on Iraq. I think it'll only be. Fitting to talk about something on those issues.
It's very relevant. It's in the news. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, I mean,
can't really ignore something that big as that.
Exactly. Related back to that, actually, Mr. Cameron's speech, actually, in regards to the Iraqi ISIS flag, if you want to call it, or the IS flag that he's made in Britain, flying the flag in Britain and so forth. We'll talk about that maybe.
The Shahada flag you're talking about, mistakenly called the
ISIS flag. That's right. That's right. These guys research. They really need to do their research.
Ignorantly,
yeah,
or maybe even deliberately.
I think more deliberate.
It could.
You think it's deliberate?
I do think it's deliberate, of course.
Mr. Khabbab?
Yeah, we'll get to that one. We'll get to that one. And obviously relate back to maybe about the recent revelations about the accusations against the mayor of Tower Hamlets. Lutfur Rahman, and
He's also been dubbed as some sort of a caliphate, member kind of guy. Apparently,
yeah,
He's got no
there are
and
elements. There are
he
elements
works
out there.
in local government and everything.
Yeah,
like
there
that.
are elements out there who are calling
He's
it the
giving money
caliphate.
to Jewish synagogues.
I mean, it's like I said, like the word I
Sounds like a very
used. The word,
dangerous ISIS guy to me.
the word I used was ridiculous. So I think we need to talk a bit about that. And if we have time, there's two other agendas that we want to talk
The
about.
never-ending story of Mayor Lutfur Rahman and the allegations. Sorry, I just want to put that back before you move to the next agenda that we might talk about. Go, Karen. Sorry.
Yeah. The two other agendas are one on the Pentagon data that was released. I think it was today article or something.
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
some sort of a research data mining tool that they're doing. It's it's been on the newspapers today. Different Muslim organizations are being listed and profiled. They're talking about different types of action that the government can take based on that information.
We'll hopefully touch upon that. And
Yep.
the last one is on Gaza and some of the strikes that happened actually today.
Okay,
Maybe touch upon a few things on that.
fantastic.
So yeah, packed show as usual.
Brilliant. I see Brother Zain bringing his own agendas to the show. That's how we like it. It's very free flow. This ain't, anything too deep, brothers and sisters. Okay, all our listeners out there, this is just really, very spontaneous, and that's what a Café Ikhwan is all about. I mean, you go to the cafe, you sit, drink some tea, you take in the smell of the fragrance of the bakhur, and you're hopefully not feeling so cold. I mean, it's a lovely atmosphere, and you talk casually and informally, and we're really huge, we're champions, we champion debate and discussion and conversation and speaking. Speaking is really, really healthy. Talking about things, helps people get things out there, and even, sometimes be open to criticism. When you talk about things, other people say, no, that's not right, that's not correct, or no, there's a different perspective to it. So you get a more comprehensive and a more, a more rounded worldview. That's what I think.
Sure. I mean, one thing I forgot actually to mention, that we have a very special guest coming on. We're going to be phoning
very shortly,
and he'll be talking about the Ferguson and the American cases in America and so forth like that. So hopefully after the break we'll have him on. But just to reiterate to all the listeners, our phone number is 07 477 080 248. That's 07477 080 248. And also you can WhatsApp us and text us as you please.
On the same number.
On the same number.
Please do call in. I might actually even bribe you with some lollipops if you do call.
Oh, that's very sinister. That's very sinister. Sorry, I'm gonna have to report you.
I mean, I don't know if all the listeners.
Eric Pickles needs to know about that.
I don't know if all the listeners understand that joke, but we'll get to that one. We'll get to that one. Yeah, we'll get to that one.
Mr. Khabbab, you and your dirty political tactics.
It's part of the Security Council.
Email us. That's right. Email us on info@middlepathradio.com. That's info@middlepathradio.com. Now, if you guys are listening on your laptops and your PCs, be sure to download our app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store for your Android devices. Okay, it's MP Radio. Okay, it's just MP Radio. We're going to go straight to the break for prayers, and we'll be with you very shortly. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Café Ikhwan. I want to say a big welcome to our panelists who are joining me today, Brother Zain and Brother Khabbab from the Security Council. They're here today, and they'll be sharing some of their hot views and opinions. Thank you for the tea, Brother Zain. Really, very, very nice of you.
No problem.
How many sugars did you put in that?
Two, just like you like.
Two, just like we like it. I normally... Okay, that's all right. Two's good.
Don't pretend you have less.
Two's good, mate. So, like Brother Zain said, we've got a number of different things to talk about today, ranging from the US airstrikes in Iraq to the ongoing issue with the alleged ISIS flag in the UK, to the never-ending investigations and allegations against the mayor of Tower Hamlets, Mr. Lutfur Rahman. Other issues from Gaza. I believe this is an agenda brought to us by the Security Council, sponsored by the Security Council, Brother Khabbab. We'll be talking about a couple of other things as well. Firstly, we're going to be talking about Ferguson. Ferguson, yeah? Get that in your phones. If you got Twitter, hashtag Ferguson, Ferguson, right? This is what's happening right now in America, and it's big news. It's being covered and reported by a lot of people. And just before we get stuck in, and we've got our guest speaker today who's on the line right now. Before we go to him, just want to give out the number to everybody else to call in as well and to send us text messages and WhatsApp messages. 07477 080 248. That's 07477 080 248. Email us on info@middlepathradio.com. That's info@middlepathradio.com. Okay. Now, I don't want to talk about Ferguson because that's why we have our, VIP guest on the line. A little bit about our VIP guest. A lot of the people in the community know him. He's been active in the youth and community sector for many years. He's been very influential in conflict resolution in the vicinity and in other areas as well. But we've invited him today because he's, especially for the reason that he is a Afro-Caribbean black civil liberties activist, and his area and speciality is the civil liberties, especially for ethnic minorities in this area. And as you know, his name is Trevor Hakim. I want to say assalamu alaikum to you, brother Hakim.
Walaikum salam rahmatullah.
Thank you for coming on the show at such short notice, but that's the way news unfolds, I'm afraid. Really appreciate having you.
Yes, so it's an honour, and indeed it's also a pleasure to be able to take this opportunity to speak with yourself about very important issues that may be going on in other parts of the world, but affects us all really directly and indirectly. So, alhamdulillah, Jazakallah, brother, for allowing me to say a few words this evening and speak with yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, we are very grateful that you've come on air. We want all our listeners to know that Brother Hakim is a cross between Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and a little bit of Winston Churchill thrown into the mix as well. So I thought, this is Café Ikhwan, so we'll give it a little bit of the Café flavor there. So, Mr. Hakim, we call you Mr. Hakim because a lot of the young people that you work with, they tend to refer to you as Mr. Hakim, but we know often we refer to you casually as well as Brother Hakim. What's exactly been happening in America right now? I mean, what is this hashtag Ferguson? What's unfolding out there?
So in the town of Ferguson, that's located in St. Louis, Missouri, United States of America, there was a young African-American teenager, the age of 18, and there are allegations, there was an alleged report that he went into a local shop. There was some type of altercation in that shop, that there was some type of accusation that he may have taken an item of a cigar or cigars that did not belong to him and walked out the shop. But at this present moment in time, all of that is speculation and allegation. The reason why is because they're still going over the CCTV footage to confirm whether that was him or not. But what has been confirmed is that once he did leave that establishment, or he may have left that establishment, when Michael Brown was walking down the street, he was stopped and accosted by a local law enforcement officer, a police officer, who was not actually responding to any call from the shop or the allegation of theft at all. Right. So this is another point that's come up now.
Interesting.
And yeah, that's right. And the information has come forward. So why he was being stopped by this officer, because obviously, when police are responding to call-outs, all of that is recorded. So this police officer was not responding to any call-out from any local shop regarding a theft. So already there's questions there. Why was he approaching him? Why did he stop him? Now, there was some type, again, altercation between the police officer and the young brother, Michael Brown, and the eyewitnesses on that day that was in the vicinity actually saw that Michael actually had his hands up in the air,
right,
as if, I'm not a threat, surrendering in that posture. Sure. We know that he was shot numerous times, and now after a lot of the protesting that has gone on regarding autopsies, the autopsy report, which, again, there were issues regarding having that immediately released, and even the family having direct and immediate information of how their son was actually killed. But now, after protest, it's come out that there was a line of bullets that riddled his upper arm and lower arm. That shows the trajectory of a bullet, that your arms would have to be raised above your head.
I see.
That's the only way that these bullets could have entered his arm in that way. And obviously there were also gunshots to his head as well. So why a police officer believed that his life was in immediate danger and any other member of the public's life was also in immediate danger, that he had to fire upon an 18-year-old up to something like 7 to 10 times who was unarmed, that definitely has to be questioned.
Sure, absolutely.
It definitely has to be questioned. So that's some of the background information that led up to now members of the local community coming out in protest. And it did, again, as these things usually start off being, it was a peaceful protest. Members of the community and family came out, wanting to know answers why this young person was shot.
So this is basically, a young black guy got shot by the police, by the cops in America. Yeah. And, forgive me for saying, this ain't the first time that's happened in the States or even in the UK. We know similar scenario happened only not so long ago with
recently with Mark
Duggan. That's right. So this is not new. I don't know about the names and the hashtag that were used previously. I know they were using Trayvon, and then there were a few others that were being used earlier. So this is not the first time.
Yeah.
And that's just basically that shooting has sparked some sort of community kind of response in Ferguson.
Even right now, as we're speaking, news has just broke that another black man, 23-year-old, has been shot in Missouri.
Wow.
The same place by the police.
Not good.
And this is broke. And this news is broken out this evening. They're saying that this young black man who's 23 years old that was shot this evening, I think, was carrying a knife. They're saying,
and he's part of the protests. I'm assuming.
Sorry,
he was part of the protests. I'm assuming.
I don't know. They're being very sketchy with information.
Okay.
But like you said, look, this is not something new that the black community, whether in the United States of America or the United Kingdom, are facing. You've just highlighted. There was a situation out here a few years back with Mark Duggan he was traveling in a minicab, and armed police stopped that cab. He got out. Eyewitnesses saw that when the armed police actually had drew their weapons, Mark Duggan did again have his hands raised in a non-threatening manner.
I see.
And again, he was shot. He was killed. And then afterwards, again, information was very sketchy. Police first, and police monitoring bodies and the press that were notified before the family and released information saying the police were shot at first. There was a bullet from Mark Duggan's gun that was lodged in the police radio, and then all of this ended up being false.
They changed
and
their
true.
story, and they did admit that that wasn't even true.
Exactly, and the family of Mark Duggan had to find out that he had been killed via the news on TV.
Yeah, coming back to Ferguson again, I know this is absolutely related. Can you a lot of people listening today, probably in the UK, I know this is it is a international audience, but a lot of people will not be familiar. They might not be listening. Have never heard of Ferguson. They might not be following the hashtag on Twitter. What's happening? How long ago has it? How many days has it been going on for? How many people are out there?
That's the protesting, and this has been going on over the last several days with the protesting. People coming out, and like I said, it started off being a very peaceful protest, but then the police came in a very heavy presence and were very heavy-handed and demanding that people disperse. Now, according to the American Constitution, people have the right for peaceful protest under the American Constitution, and that's exactly what happened. But the police were now demanding that people remove themselves off the street, which the police had no right to demand that. And because people refused to remove themselves off the street, then the police started to fire tear gas in the crowd, and then, lo and behold, it got everything kicked off from there. It got violent from there, and then you had the opportunists with the looting and everything else that happened from there. And the mainstream news media started to mainly focus on the looting that was going on, and nobody was really covering the story regarding the peaceful protest. That's how it started, and the heavy-handedness of the police trying to force people to disperse, and they had the right to protest for however long they wanted to, because it was a peaceful gathering, asking and demanding for answers of why a teenager was shot several times after he had his hands raised. So that's that's what's been going on over the last several days. There's been a lot of community leaders going into Ferguson, Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, to offer their support. Everyone from Reverend Al Sharpton to Minister Louis Farrakhan, to Jesse Jackson, have been offering their support, and trying to give the family.
This is Zain speaking. Yeah, I was just going to ask you on that, the tactics that's been used by the police currently in Ferguson. Yeah. I mean, we've seen reports that they've actually arrested reporters. They actually shot at reporters with rubber bullets and also tear gas and all that. This just reminds me of a police state, really, and the hypocrisy that America's coming with when they come out and say to protesters in other to authorities in other places, other governments, to not to quell these protests if they, for the right of protesting and so forth and whatnot. Doesn't it just sound like a bit of hypocrisy?
Of course, it's total hypocrisy. Can I be really blatant and straight, brothers, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Yeah. And if I'm going to really speak the truth, brothers, look, when we're living in a global structure that really is run from an elite white supremacist structure. And the reason why I'm saying elite is because I'm talking about your upper classes. So we're talking about a power structure, a global power structure that only keeps a very few in position of power at top. And those few are middle-aged, white, male, upper class. That's these governing systems, especially those in the West, that's who are actually running things. So whether you're poor white working class, whether you're a person of color, and if you don't fit into that also, that chosen religious structure, then you know what? This system will definitely go against you if you do not follow what they believe should be the status quo. And we're just seeing that manifested, not just in Ferguson. We see that fact manifested here. We see that manifested in Gaza and Palestine. It's all one and the same system. So when you've got a young Palestinian kid that's trying to go about his daily business, and then he's being harassed by Israeli armed forces or police forces, there is no difference between that and a young Muslim youth, be they Asian or be they African, or any other non-white or even poor working class white youth that are going about their daily business. And if you do not fit into this social status quo and follow that line of structure, then yes, if you're going to be fortunate if you're just harassed. But right now, when you say there's a police state on its way, it's already here. Look, when the United States government and the UK government, if you notice, when they had cutbacks regarding their military service, recently over the last year to 2 years, they've had a lot of military personnel cut back, right?
That's right.
You notice they cut back on personnel, but they didn't cut back on equipment.
So tell us a little bit about their equipment, because I was going to bring you to that, because I've seen some of the pictures and the videos. I mean, exactly. That place looks like, Iraq, US forces in Iraq or Afghanistan.
No, brother, this is what I'm trying to. This is what I want people to really understand. Your listeners to understand that you may be cutting back on personnel. Now, if you cut back on the personnel, you've still got all this equipment that's surplus now to requirement because the military can't use it because they don't have enough soldiers to use it. So where's that going to go now? That's going to go into the inner cities. So
the domestic police
armored. So there you go. So when you see these armored vehicles coming into the inner cities, all they've done is paint the police logo over it. That's all they've done. When you now see police armed to the teeth, more like soldiers.
These are the exact same vehicles. This is not an exaggeration. I've looked at the stuff. This is the exact same vehicles, the same Humvees, the same LRAD weapons. I mean, they're all armor plated. These are the ones that are designed to be IED proof. You know, this is and they're issued, you know, M16 rifles and, you know, other types of munitions that are like, I think they've got stun grenades and
they've got stun grenades, flash grenades. Right now, police are taught. You know, police are not taught regarding protect and serve, being civil servants of the community and everything else. You know, they're taught special tactics. They're taught special urban warfare tactics. And when you see some of these military guys, a lot of the time they're going to be brought into the police as consultants, if not actually putting on that police uniform themselves. So we're definitely moving towards more of a military police state. And let me also
what does this say? Sorry to interrupt. Carry on.
Let me just drop this because this is really important.
Go ahead.
Because as you said earlier on, when you know I do a lot of work with the youth, and a lot of my work covers with me being so blessed to be able to work with other people that have come from other parts of the world, whether it's South Central Los Angeles and others. And I've got to mention the great brother Twilight Bay, that's done immense work in South Central Los Angeles and also here in the UK. And when I started to work with this brother, and then when we started to do some research and look into things, and when we started to see that in the United States of America, the federal government, they were looking after 9/11 to adapt and galvanize terrorist laws to now use those same laws on so-called gangs, and to label them as urban terrorists. And let me tell you something, if people don't think that same type of change is not going to be coming here, then they're sadly mistaken. In a few years from now, you're going to start hearing government labeling young people on the street as urban terrorists.
And they're doing that. They started even using that kind of language now.
Of course. And that's the reason why people need to be aware of this and know how to deal with this.
That's right.
In the correct manner. So when you start to see these policies coming through, and when you start to see these terminologies being used, and when you start to see that there's more now.
So I mean, it looks like, you know, Ferguson is like a pilot kind of project of theirs, you know, where they're, you know, testing out some of their military equipment that's surplus, as you said, you know, bought by the local forces.
You know what, brothers? Nah, man. No. You know what was a pilot for that? Even more so. I'm talking about London, UK 3 years ago regarding the so-called riot that happened after the Mark Daggins. Because again, with the work that I do, I've been fortunate enough to work with police officers that do not agree with the way that the institution that they work for operates.
I see.
And there's a couple of police officers, and I'm not going to mention their names for their own protection, but with those few nights of so-called rioting, I'm using the term so-called for a reason, because as far as I'm concerned, certain aspects of those 3 nights of what happened a few years back wasn't rioting, it was a rebellion. Against certain parts of it was rioting, but other parts of it wasn't. I mean, when you got like 2,000 people drunk out of their heads fighting with each other because their football team was lost and a few shops get smashed, that's a riot.
True.
When you've got people fed up of being harassed by a police force that we pay for, and racial and religious profiling, and people are fed up with that, and they vent their frustration out on the street, that's a rebellion. So I just want to make that clear distinction between the two.
I appreciate that. And the thing is...
sorry, brother, if I can just finish up. Let me just finish up real quick on this point. And so when I got a call from a police officer that night that was called in to be put in riot gear and go out on the streets. And when he said to me, Brother Hakeem, do you know something? I've just come from a briefing, and the top-ranking officers were in consultation with Parliament, with Westminster, and they've said, one of the main reasons why the military was not called onto the London streets was because at the time they were criticising other Muslim countries in the East that were using the military against their own people.
Amen.
And because the British government had criticised them for doing that, they said, look, if we do it now, we're going to give those same Muslim leaders and Muslim countries that we've criticised doing that, we're going to give them ammunition. So that's the only reason why we can't do it. They were prepared to send the military out on London streets. 3 years ago.
Wow.
So it's not even about Missouri being a testing ground. The testing ground had already been done. It was here, brothers.
It was here.
They already had new and advanced military consulted weaponry and armory for the police on standby 3 years ago, right here. Now, this is way before anything ever happened in Ferguson.
That's right. And a lot of people will say that the last time that this has ever happened, in the UK anyway, would have been, people made reference to Northern Ireland and what was happening over there, how the police were getting very militarized out there. And we saw what kind of, reaction that got from the public out there. We need to wrap this up, Mr. Hakim. Last question I want to ask you, Brother Hakim, is what does this whole scenario, this Ferguson situation that's happening out there, it's still ongoing. I think there's been 8 days of protests, day and night, with the curfew being installed. It's affected, a huge array of things. What does this say about, in the wider picture of things, what does it say about America, civil liberties, racism, and, just the black community or any other minority out there? What is it saying to the world? I mean, what do people have to take lesson from this whole situation?
Okay, well, to try and wrap it up in a very short and brief time, it's saying several things simultaneously. Number one, using the word that you came up with earlier, it's showing the hypocrisy of leaders of whether it's United States or even the UK, that will turn around and say, listen, you've got to handle this in a peaceful way. You've got to be calm. We know that one of you have been killed, but please be calm. So how the hell can warmongers, that when they have a disagreement with another countries, they or invade or destroy, you can't be violent? I'm not advocating violence, but I just want to point out hypocrisy. So why the hell is anyone going to listen to you when you're telling them to be peaceful, when at the same time you're sending drones, you're sending armies to kill innocents? No one's going to listen to a hypocrite when you want to handle your differences in the most violent way that anyone else could ever handle on this planet. Because we don't have access to drones. We don't have access to tanks and the helicopter gunships. You do. And that's how you settle your differences. So that's the first level of hypocrisy that people need to look at. And even those people themselves that are in position of leaderships of these countries, of the United States, when they want to turn around and say to others, be peaceful, well, maybe they need to set the example of how you resolve your differences in a peaceful manner. And then maybe people start to listen to them. So that's one. Again, people need to connect the global structure of things, of what you see going on in Ferguson, Missouri, like we've said before, is really no different to what's going on in Palestine and Gaza. That when you have a ruling system that has been operating for decades from a social inequality and a lack of justice, we've got to remember that America likes to tell the world it's a shining example of democracy, liberation, and what have you. And is it really? Is it really, considering that, black people have only been allowed to vote for the last couple of decades in America? Remember, black people couldn't vote, up until the 1920s, 1930s.
Indeed.
Wasn't allowed to vote. Yep. Right now, as we speak in 2014, in death row cells of the United States of America, there are still people that are in death row waiting to be put to death. They were members of the Black Panther Party while fighting for their civil and human rights.
Wow.
So how the hell can you want to be the example of liberty and freedom and human rights? So you want to speak to other places in the world that say detrimental to human rights, and you got African Americans in prison that are on death row to this day waiting to be killed by the state system because in the 60s and 70s they were fighting for their human rights and their civil rights that they couldn't get just because of the color of their skin. So people need to see the hypocrisy of the system.
Brother Hakim, you've made some very, very useful and powerful points there and drawn some lessons from this whole situation. For our listeners. We really appreciate it. We're grateful to you, Brother Hakim. We hope to have you again on our show, and hopefully maybe we can bring you into the studio.
Brother, thank you. I want to thank yourself, Brother Ahmed. I want to thank Brother Zain for having me this evening.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all your radio staff and team there for allowing me these few minutes and these few words. And more importantly, I'd also like to thank your radio listeners for allowing me to come into their hearts and minds. And anything that I've said tonight that is correct, and if I've said anything tonight that has sparked a level of consciousness and direction towards what is correct and what is right, then all praises are due to Allah.
Jazakallah khair. What a beautiful way to end on this note. Shukran again. I hope to speak to you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ikhwan. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I mean, there you go, guys. I mean, we had a very long, lengthy discussion, a very educational with Brother Trevor Hakim, who's a revert to Islam, an Afro-Caribbean brother who's been involved in this kind of thing for many, many years. And he works in the community, dealing with these types of issues on a local level. And I mean, you heard what he had to say. And I took a couple of things, interesting things that he said there, Brother Khabbab. And I think it was, I mean, he made reference to this, but I'm going to add one of the a saying of a guy called Voltaire. I mean, he said, when it comes to money, we're all brothers of the same religion. And I'll probably add in parentheses or brackets the word power. When it comes to money, power, yeah, we're all brothers of the same religion. And this is really what the structure that Brother Hakim was talking about earlier. How, you know, it doesn't really matter. Even there, and he mentioned even interestingly that it depends if you're one of the you could be on the bottom of the hierarchy, or, you know, on the bottom of the ladder. You could be white even. Okay. You know, people might refer to you as chavs and the underclass in the UK. You could be white, and there's still immense level of hate, you know, directed at them. Okay, and they get it, and definitely minorities are feeling it. So, I mean, he's pointed that out. Brother Zain, I mean, there's a number of things.
Yeah, I think he's really related back to, obviously, not just what's happening in America, it's happening in America only. I mean, it's relating back to here in the UK and globally, as we've seen it. He mentioned Gaza and also in other places. Just before we actually move on, I just want to reiterate the number. Do call in, text and WhatsApp us on this number. It's 07477080248. That's 07477080248. I think if we can take a quick nasheed break, inshallah, and we'll be back very soon.
بسمة الفجر أفيقي وارسمي للأفق ثغرا واكتبي بالنور سفرا وامسحي للجرح سطرا واغرسي في كل قلب فرحا حبا وزهرا إنه عهد جديد إنه عهد السلام استيقظت من قرع أبواب السماء وقلوب ضارعات بابتهال ورجاء ربنا إياك ندعو فاستجب منا الدعاء إنه عهد جديد قد أرادوا ثم نالوا ما أرادوا رتلوا إنا فتحنا وببشرى الفتح عادوا فلا هم تدنو نجوم وبهم تعلو بلاد إنه عهد جديد جديد عهد السلام كلما قلنا يئسنا قالت الآمال كلا فغدا تشرق شمس والأماني تتجلى لم لا نحلم دوما نحن بالأحلام أحلى إنه عهد جديد اسمه عهد السلام عهد السلام أبواب السماء وقلوب ضارعات بابتهال ورجاء ربنا إياك ندعو فاستجب منا الدعاء إنه عهد جديد اسمه عهد السلام عن قريب تغمر الأيام أفراح وطيبا فنرى طفلا ضحوكا وكتابا وحقيبا ومواعيد غرام لحبيب وحبيبا إنه عهد جديد اسمه عهد السلام لأراجيح صغار ولألعاب صبايا ولأيام تولت ولذكرى وحكايا الغد الباسم آت حاملا معه الهدايا إنه عهد جديد اسمه عهد السلام يا ربيع العرب طوبى أوشك البغي فولا فاعزف النصر نشيدا وابعث اللحن رسولا إنه الشرق ويا كم سحر الشرق عقولا إنه عهد جديد اسمه عهد السلام بالسماء وقلوب ضارعات بابتهال ورجاء ربنا إياك ندعو فاستجب منا الدعاء إنه عهد جديد اسمه عهد السلام
إنه عهد جديد اسمه
عهد السلام عهد السلام
عهد السلام
إنه عهد جديد اسمه عهد السلام
عهد جديد اسمه عهد السلام
موقع ومنتديات رفيق الدرب
المشكل البريء علام
Ikhwan. Again, a reminder to all our listeners, please do call and text in. The number is 074 07477 080248. That's 07477 080248. I am one of your co-hosts today, Khabbab.
That's
I will be on the other show, the Security Council,
The Security Council.
which will be given details later of when the show will take place.
Watch this
But
space.
As I mentioned, please do call in. I have offered some incentive for you to call in. The lollipops, nobody's obviously taken up my offer. Maybe they're not understanding.
We all love lollipops. You've got us there, bro. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, again, the number's going out. Make sure you save it on your phone. I could put it in your address book. It's 07477 080248. That's 07477 080248. You can text us with your comments. You can text us with your questions. You can send us WhatsApp messages if you like. And of course, you can send us an email on info@middlepathradio.com. Now, I know some of you guys out there are Twitter buffs, social media freaks. Many of you guys are online. I have,
and many are troll kings.
Troll kings, some serious genius trolls out there. And I do find some of you guys tweeting at 3-4 in the morning. Okay, having your troll battles with some sort of maybe the IDF spokesperson or some sort of a militant atheist out there. So if you've got Twitter, be sure to follow us on it's at Middlepath Radio. It's all one word, at Middlepath Radio. Be sure to follow us and retweet our tweets. And of course, write comments. You can even ask us questions on Twitter, but we do prefer text messages because that is more instant and right in front of us right now. Brother Zain.
Now, I think because we've got short time, I think we'll go on to some of our... unless you got something to talk about.
I know we took a lot of time on Ferguson. I do apologise, Brother Zain. I know this is the Security Council. I got to abide by the Security Council rules, laws and regulations. Even when I've put my foot up in my cafe, I've got to be wary of your drone strikes, Brother Zain. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm just wanted to say that some interesting facts. The tear gas that the militarised police are using now on the protests in Ferguson. Apparently, this kind of tear gas is actually illegal chemical weapon, an illegal chemical weapon to use in warfare. Okay. Now, the catch is, this is in the Chemical Weapons Convention of 1993. The United States is actually signed up to that convention, including almost nearly every other nation in the world. The catch is that, as you heard, it's only illegal in warfare, but it can be used perfectly legally in domestic kind of crowd control or riot control. So that's that.
Really? You can actually use it in crowd control in domestic, but you can't use it in foreign warfare, international warfare. It's surprising, and I wonder why they actually kept that to be used in localized kind of...
So, if you've got comments about the Ferguson issue, questions, your feedback and what your feelings are, don't forget to call us, okay? The number is again 07477 080 248. We've got a few other agendas, Brother Zain, and I know I've been dragging out the last one. Tell us what we're going to move on to next.
Sorry, no, I think it'll be good if we move on to the next thing because we're very limited in time. We want to talk about the US airstrikes currently happening in Iraq and maybe go into some things on that. Shall I ask Khabbab to maybe just briefly speak about what's been happening on the news or what we've been seeing in the news?
Okay, as you are currently aware that the US have launched several airstrikes in Iraq against the Islamic State, formerly known as the Islamic State of Iraq and Sham, or the Levant, or ISIS or ISIL, now known as IS. And they've been, I think, taking over most of the...
AKA ISIS, AKA ISIL, currently known as IS.
Dola?
We're just... for those of
many terms
with that kind of thing.
Either way, and we can discuss about the whole names and terminologies later.
So why do you think after the US actually left, they're going back in doing what they're doing? Why isn't this being fought by the Iraq if they think that this is
the $1 million question, Brother Zain?
Maybe it goes back to something we talked about a little while ago, which is that everybody loves money.
You said it. The Americans were there, and they spent millions of dollars. They lost lives. They caused the death of many people out there as well. Okay, destabilized the whole region, and the whole thing, the whole premise for going to war was based on a pack of lies. And I don't think there's anybody here who denies that today. Everybody knows. They got a very nice blanket reply to that. They say hindsight is 20/20, isn't it? They so blasé about going to war and causing bloodshed, out and abroad. But they just say we didn't know that. You see, you know.
Well, this seems like quite a noble thing to do, isn't it? Because it says that it's been reported in many media, and I'm not saying that all the media are, you know, they're saying the right thing, but media saying like, oh, ISIS is going and killing all these people, and on top of mountains have
Yazidis.
Yeah, the Yazidis and so forth.
Devil worshippers.
And the Kurds and the Peshmerga, the different types of ethnic groups out there. I mean, this is my point is, why are we even discussing this? I mean, they just came out of Iraq, and everybody has agreed that the whole thing was a big mistake, an enormous mistake. You know, and what are they doing with airstrikes, military action again? Are we forgetting even before the recent pullout? George W. Bush Sr. was also leading the Gulf War Part 1. So, go on, Brother Zayn.
No, I was just saying that, but beside the point, though, now America is going in for a noble cause. That's what it's been saying, isn't it? America, not just America. I mean, there's talks of UK going in, doing recon missions and other things, and moving it beyond the aid mission, as they were calling it before. Going in there and going back to square one. They're doing this. They're saying that they're doing this because ISIS are killing, maiming, pillaging, if you want to call it, doing all this kind of stuff to the local people there. What's the truth behind this? Is it happening? I mean, I'm sure there are elements to it that there's truth to this. But
I'm actually going to come to that. I mean, and before, since you mentioned that, I mean, they're doing a so-called noble thing. They're out there on a humanitarian mission. I mean, you can't really, paint a pig with lipstick and then say, it's something else. It's still a pig, right? I mean, there's US airstrikes. There's, I know that. Go on, Brother Zayn. I think you might want to keep that joke to yourself. All right, back on point. Okay, if you're gonna crack that joke, then you gotta come, bang on the cue. You can't, laugh before the joke. Yeah. Anyway, that's for the Security Council to deal with and pass one of your resolutions on that kind of behaviour. Anyway, it's come back. I mean, this so-called US, it's a military airstrike. It's a military mission. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're dropping some, rice from the air and saying, "Here you go, Yazidis, take some food." It's still a military operation. There's no denying that. My question is, what are they doing, arming the PKK? And other Kurdish groups?
Are they not on the
they're
US
prescribed terrorists?
Even before we go there, I think the question still remains here. Is ISIS doing what the media is reporting and what they're saying? Is it the fact that they are killing and they are maiming and they're causing all this havoc?
Yeah, and what mandate do the United States have? I know everybody, in the international community hate ISIS and so on and so forth. But what mandate do they have? Even with the war in Iraq, the invasion of Iraq, I think about 2003, 2004. There was a whole discussion going on about that. The UN was telling America that you got to, get our approval. Then there has to be backing for this. On this occasion, they seem to just decide overnight. We're going to strike Iraq. That's it. They just done it.
I think what I was trying to get to is that we're only talking about this because America's trying to do America's doing what they're doing right now. UK is speaking about it right now. It's all blustered all over the news. But really, if you just look across the border in Syria, they're just looking at Iraq. In Syria, it's been state-sponsored terrorism in terms of what they've been doing in their hundreds of thousands in Syria, where Bashar al-Assad is doing worse, much, much worse in Syria to the Sunni Muslims. But no one is really speaking about it. Everyone is focused on this ISIS and this ISIL or the IS or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I mean, this again reminds me of the whole. Suddenly, everybody cares about black African girls in Nigeria as though they know them like their family. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to belittle the whole tragic situation over there or anything like that. What I'm trying to say is, why is there this lopsided, this very biased way of picking and choosing the civilian lives that you suddenly care about, and other civilian lives don't seem to matter? I mean, we're talking about US airstrikes in Iraq again, okay, while Israel is doing airstrikes on civilian population, the most densely populated part of the world.
It's the civilian lives that fit in with their foreign policy, with their agenda, that will justify their actions.
So they've got a favourites list basically, and if you are a civilian on the American favourites list, then
it's actually not a favourites list. It's just more about situation and chance. So today's Yazidis could be on the favourites list, and tomorrow it could be.
I'm going to be frank. I mean,
different.
I know Brother Hakim earlier was frank about it. I'm going to say it out front. They don't care about the civilians. They don't care about the Yazidis. They don't care about the PKK. They've got an agenda. They've got a program. They've got certain interests in the Middle East. Those are the public, palatable bases that they're putting out for the international community to swallow wholesale, which people are, by the way, and doing that. As Brother Zain has rightly pointed out, and I would go a step further about Sunnis being killed by Assad out there. Let's take it back one step. Even though I'm going a step further, I'm taking it back one step. I know it's a bit confusing. But my point is that, has anybody heard of ISIS before Assad started killing Sunnis in Syria?
No.
ISIS didn't exist.
No.
Okay, that's not correct. ISIS did exist in the form of ISI. So that was another aka ISI. They were Islamic State in Iraq. That happened.
So they've evolved many times.
Yeah, they've changed their name a few times. But I mean, they didn't exist before the 2003 invasion of Iraq. There was no such organization called
So what
ISIS.
was the cause of ISIS coming into existence?
I mean, that's the whole point. During the whole ruling of Saddam Hussein, there were no rebel groups, there were no armed
There was no
factions.
Al-Qaeda in Iraq.
There was no Al-Qaeda in Iraq. There was no ISIS, not in the form and fashion that we know it now. So I mean, the question got to be asked: how did ISIS come about? Why did they come about? We're not going to go into the question. I think everybody knows the law on this, whether what they're doing is right or wrong, whether it complies with international law and that stuff. We're not really venturing into that question. We're questioning really about the context of everything. I mean, how did this happen? Before the United States invaded that country, there was no such thing as ISIS.
Cause and consequence.
And when they did invade the country, they obviously put in place a Shia government, right? Now, funny how Yazidis are a minority and being attacked by ISIS, and that's the reason why minority groups, in inverted commas, have to be protected by US airstrikes. Very little is mentioned of Sunnis in Iraq post-US invasion. Sunnis are actually a minority group compared to the Shia. The Shia in Iraq are actually the majority group. And there's been atrocities documented by Western journalists, since the invasion.
No, I think that's the whole reason. I mean, one of the things that people are saying ISIS actually not by themselves here. I mean, they've got alliance with a lot of Sunni groups out there. I mean, from the civilian population to some of the tribes out there and so forth. And the only reason, far as what we can understand from what the sources that we've seen, is because that they've been persecuted under the Shia government.
I mean, we're not speaking for ISIS or any of those groups out there. We're just reporting what's out there on social media from those rebellion groups and stuff like that.
No one's even agreeing with what ISIS is doing. I mean, I'm not saying we're agreeing or disagreeing. We don't even know what they're doing.
That's right. But we're just putting the facts out there for information purposes. And this is what they're saying, that we didn't exist. We came about. We decided to get armed and do the activities they're doing, okay, because of the fact that the Shia, with the help of the Americans, were committing, war crimes and a number of atrocities. There were death squads and Shia militias helped by the Iranian Hizb al-Shaitan or Hezbollah, okay, Hassan Nasrallah, and trained and armed and paid for by Iran. Same happening in Syria.
It's been created by what the consequences of the invasion of Iraq, basically.
Exactly, and absolutely. I mean, that's really what I'm worried about. But tell me, Brother Khabbab, the leader and chair of the Security Council, tell me, what is happening to the Yazidis? Is there a process of ethnic cleansing taking place right now in Iraq at the hands of ISIS? I mean, is there definitive, conclusive, unequivocal, undisputed facts and reports coming out of Iraq that ethnic cleansing is now happening out there? I just want to say again, any form of civilian death and that kind of thing, we it's tragic and very regrettable. But we're dealing with the facts here and the propaganda machine. And that's what do you think? What do you think's happening?
Well, the news tends to say that the Yazidis are fleeing their homes into the mountaintops. That's where they're residing as refugees. But when you go to the mountaintops, you realize that the Yazidis already live there. So where were they fleeing from if they already lived there? So some of the news out there is quite not as clear as being mentioned by the West in order to justify their actions. So really, it's as Brother Zain mentioned, it's very unclear. The news that's coming out is very much one-sided, and it's coming from one angle to fulfill an agenda or to justify certain actions. So based on what we've seen so far, there doesn't really seem to be much of an ethnic cleansing.
Okay, good point. I'm going to read a quick little caption from an article on from the anti-war website news.antiwar.com. Okay, it's a short article written by Jason Ditz on August the 13th. All right, so not too long ago. So I'm just going to quickly read this, so keep with me. The 40,000 Yazidis stranded on the mountain, that was the pretext for US military intervention in Iraq, as set out by President Obama last Thursday. The air war was commenced, and officials were talking up sending ground forces for, in inverted commas, rescue operations as recently as this afternoon. But a funny thing happened when the US advisors got to Mount Sinjar. This is in Iraq, where the Yazidis are apparently stranded. There weren't 40,000 starving Yazidis stranded there. In fact, indications are that there never were, and the Pentagon quickly dropped the rescue plan, in inverted commas. What happened? It turns out there were Yazidis already living on the top of the mountain, and while there were some refugees who fled up there, the humanitarian crisis was never what it was made out to be, and an influx of Kurdish PKK fighters from Syria quickly broke the overblown siege. Okay, now the Pentagon is trying to manage this narrative by simply saying the rescue mission appears unnecessary, but and there are references for all of what we're saying. It's on the article, so it's difficult when you're on talk station to provide all the sources, but the fact that it was used to start a US war remains, and the State Department is doubling down, trying to spin the lack of a crisis as a vindication of the war. And I don't want to say too much more on this, and he's got other kind of facts and reports out here that seem to contradict the kind of information and stats that are coming out from government sources from the states. So
Would you say it's a bit like saying there's weapons of mass destruction in Iraq?
Exactly, thank you. You hit the nail on the head. This is exactly another smokescreen, or as somebody in a Scottish accent would say, the mother of all smokescreens. Okay? And I want to,
Well, I'm sure people like Dr. Kelly and Robin...
listening to,
that was a terrible effort at this Scottish... I do apologise to the Scottish people. But anyway, it is a smokescreen. And this is again another one of those weapons of mass destruction, false flag, red herring, whatever you want to call it. Really, I mean, this is again the fake basis to go and it looks like the world doesn't care. As long as it's those guys in beards, those extremists,
with the black flags.
With their black flags, all well and good, as one anchor or one host in the United States, America, a lady was saying on TV, and I know the comedian Russell Brand actually criticized and commented on this. She said, bomb them and bomb them some more and bomb them to hell, and it was like, it was just, this is the American attitude to people living outside of America. This is exactly how they treat people abroad. Brother Zain.
No, I was going to say, you mentioned Black Flag, and I think if we can move on from there. I mean, I was going to come on to that. Did you guys hear the speech, Cameron's speech on Black Flag?
I did indeed. It was very interesting. It seems like the Black Flag is something which will be forbidden to be flown in this country. In terms of, they're saying that his speech was mentioning that the ISIS flag, if it is flown here in the UK,
we got a quote for that.
Yeah, we've got the direct quote here
from Dawood Kamran,
from the Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. David Cameron. Should I do it in a Scottish accent?
No.
Okay. All right, stick.
No Irish.
All right, I'll just stick with
why
reading it.
the Scot, by the way?
Why not Irish?
It reminds me of
Braveheart.
a little bit of the land and the freedoms quote. Anyway,
What's that?
you're an innocent brother, like you don't know what those kind of things are. Okay, I mean, this is what David Cameron had to say, and he said, "I have also discussed the police response to this growing threat of extremism with the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sir Bernard Hogan-Howe. The position is clear. If people are walking around with ISIL flags or trying to recruit people to their terrorist cause, they will be arrested and their materials will be seized. We are a tolerant people, but no tolerance should allow the room for this sort of poisonous extremism in our country."
The ISIL flag. So
What is the ISIL
What is the
flag?
ISIL flag? What is it that where from? It's again going back to last week's discussion about this flag, the Shahada flag. For some reason, these people are attacking the Shahada flag by calling it the ISIS flag, the ISIL flag, or whatever you may be. You know,
Certain MPs and journalists, with the flag being flown in certain protests
it's
and
ridiculous.
hung up in
It's
certain,
ridiculous. It's basic
estates.
common sense. Yeah, if some common sense would tell you, research where does this flag originate from, what it does it say, and all of that kind of business, and then you find out. And I know these guys have all these guys who research for them.
I think this is just plain ignorance or something
There
more
is
sinister.
I would have liked to think that it was ignorance, but you can't call it ignorance when it's coming from the leader of a country such as the UK, with all his
Resources, think tanks, and personal advisors at the expense of the taxpayer. That's you and me, by the way. Yeah, them scroungers in Whitehall. I'm not having any of that. Anyway, so they call us that all the time. So I thought I'll give it back to them today. Go on.
Yeah. So again, to your question, I think I don't like to believe it, but it is what it is, and it seems like that it is. There is a plot or plan or something behind these kind of speeches, because it's so ridiculous coming out and saying about, oh, this is ISIS flag. No, it says the Shahada. The Shahada is what? It's declaration of faith. It's the declaration.
Even if we moved away and we talked about the so-called ISIL flag, or the flag that is associated with them, which is the emblem or the seal of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is not even their flag. You could say it's not a flag that is belongs to the Muslims.
That's exactly true. That's absolutely true. I want to come on to another point, but before we do, I want to just comment on what Brother Khabab has just said. That the inscription on the flag, the seal of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the very person who introduced or revealed or shared and taught the religion of Islam to all of humanity today, that person used those inscriptions, those seals. And just because some rebel groups are using those same inscriptions, and when we talked about this last week,
I mean, it was the same thing that someone texted and said that about the swastika.
Brilliant point.
And he said that this was a symbol of Hinduism, I think.
So I mean, when you use the swastika in the fashion and for the purposes of racism, for example, when Mr. Harry, Prince Harry, is that his name? Yeah. Prince Harry was attending a party, I believe, a few years ago, and he had the Nazi SS stormtrooper uniform on and the armband with the swastika. That was clearly identifiable as the uniform of the racists. Okay, now if a Hindu person happens to wear a necklace or an amulet, I don't know where it originates from exactly and what fashion it's used in the.
It's on their clothing. I've seen it before.
It's on their clothing.
Yes.
If it's on their clothing, in the Hindu fashion, then are those people now, to be treated as Nazis, and is the police supposed to take action against them? They're extremists and they're terrorists and they're stormtroopers or something like that. I mean, that's just absurd.
Same could be said about the British flag or the Union Jack or the English flag, which is accustomed with, say, the English Defence League with the Red Cross, or Britain's First, and the British National Party and National France, and so forth.
Anyone that waves that, are they immediately EDL or British
are they immediately fascist
or whatever?
Yeah.
Of course not.
This is some sort of an ignorant, narrow-minded kind of view that they're using, and I'm ashamed that people in office, educated people, privileged people, leaders of states are kind of peddling this kind of rubbish out there. And you know what's happening? Brother Zain? This kind of thing is stoking community tensions and peddling and giving rise, adding fuel to hate, okay, and hate crime out there. Now, sorry, bro.
Was there not a certain MP who tweeted about a certain mayor who was where the black flag was being.
All I'm going to say,
flown.
you didn't listen to our last week's show. We actually spoke about exactly this thing, and this is actually just coming from now.
Yeah, I know the chair of the Security Council was actually away on some very important business, international
State business, I'm guessing.
State business indeed.
Yeah, I think he's going to replace the current representative, the Chinese guy. I think.
Unfortunately, I'm not the chair. There is the original chair, which
some shady Freemasonic business going on out there. Coming back to the point, I mean, we were talking about how serious this kind of false information, the misleading misinterpretation of the symbols of Islam, the statement, the testimony of faith, the seal of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how misleading information can lead to bigotry and hate, and not just bigotry and hate, but just general confusion and even violence on the streets of the UK. I mean, I've got an article here from Daily Mail, right, and it reports that police arrested 2 men after Kurds in Sheffield, clash with Gaza demonstrators. Gaza has got no ISIS out there, by the way. They clashed with Gaza demonstrators who were waving a flag linked with Islamist extremism.
So what's this flag? What's this flag?
It's the same black Shahada flag. Now, Gaza protesters are taking the flag because they're Muslim, they identify with Islam, they identify with the testimony of faith. Some Kurds who've bought into the idea that this flag is the sole property patented and copyrighted by ISIS, they felt very offended, and obviously a fight ensued, and there was some violence, at a peaceful protest between those who went there to protest about a completely separate issue, which was the attack on Gaza. And this is the kind of situation, the kind of dangerous things that happen when media are irresponsible, when politicians and heads of state are being very irresponsible with the way that they're going about, and then they're bringing in legislation and they're criminalizing things that are completely mundane, completely benign, and very, very central to a huge number of people in the UK and the rest of the world. Brother Zain or Brother Khabab?
Well, I think time is quite short, so we will need to slowly start moving on, and
I
think my lollipops are waiting.
So just again, reiterate the number. Please do text in, call in, or WhatsApp your messages on 07 477 080 248. That's 07 477 080 248. I think it nicely moves us on to one of the things that we wanted to speak about briefly, maybe about the mayor of Tower Hamlets and these allegations that came up. Just briefly, Brother Ahmed, just speak about that.
Well, this is the, again, never-ending saga of allegations and
against the Islamic State of Tower Hamlets.
I mean, this is some people dubbing
the Islamic Republic, was it not?
Yeah, they're dubbing Mayor Lutfur Rahman's
caliphate
time in office with these kind of
clear racism.
Yeah.
Why would you want to call that, just because he's a Muslim, you want to call it a caliphate? What is wrong with these people?
So, I mean, this is how they tarnish and character assassinate their opponents in the political field. They didn't win the election. The people chose Mayor Lutfur Rahman. I personally will be coming out on radio to say that I generally don't vote. Okay, so I'm not really aligned to any particular political group as such, and this radio station is not party political or partisan in any shape or form, even though our discussions are highly political. Okay, now he's a Muslim, as you've said, and he's been attacked time and time again for apparently funding Islamic groups and giving more money to Somalian charities, and kinds of loaded terms being used and abused, really. Now the government, the local government, led by Eric Pickles, by the way, had launched an investigation into the allegation that are made against him, about electoral fraud, about money misappropriation. And
central government, not local government.
Sorry, that's a correction. Thank you. It was central government. Now, the findings of this government are very, very squeaky quiet at the moment, because they don't seem to have produced any, damning
after
facts.
months of digging.
and
Taking
again,
away files and folders from the council.
taxpayer money. This is on the expense of the
Millions.
council, not from central government.
And exactly, they were told, the council were told that
You
you
will pay
will
for
fork
it.
out the bill for these inspectors, and they were told how much would it be. They just said millions.
That's right, and this is obviously all detracting from the actual local work that is very needed in this borough, one of the very deprived boroughs in the entire UK. Okay, and Mayor Lutfo, I mean, on merit, has done a lot of good work in the community, and that's the reason why I think people are voting for him. I don't think it's anything to do with the fact that he's being woolly. He's come out openly to say he's given funding to Jewish places of worship.
Those from the LGBT community, the Jewish community, Christians and so forth.
Yeah.
We've all voted for him, so it's not necessarily just the case that
Yeah, I mean,
his votes are coming from the Bangladeshi or the Muslim community.
That's it. I
only.
mean, if you're trying to make a case against him for being some sort of an Islamist, then you need to check your facts, because these guys, and everybody knows what Islam has to say about, personal relations with the opposite gender and stuff like that. So, and yet these groups are coming out to say that, he supported us, and we're quite
same
proud.
gender.
Yeah, I mean, they're exposed, these guys. And most recently, what's come forward is, things are getting a little bit desperate for the Mayor Lutfo opposition. And what's happening here is, breaking news, is that, I mean, this is Lutfur Rahman's own tweet. I'm going to read. It says, bizarre claims now being made, okay? They include us being accused of giving out lollipops on election day.
Lollipops.
That's a serious crime.
So I must be guilty for offering out lollipops all this time.
I mean, it appears that I'm going to try and read directly from the document that is attached in the tweet, if it would kindly open up. It says here, further, clause number 74, I think. Further, it is alleged that the first respondent and or his authorized agent has been responsible for diverse other corrupt practices for bribery, directly or indirectly. This is like some sort of mafia bribery going on here, guys. Okay, number one, on polling day at Culloden so-and-so school, polling station, the THF, that's Mayor Lutfur Rahman's party or group, the candidate such and such lady Shuli Akhtar said to voters that they should vote for the house logo to get a house. The house logo is a symbol of THF. Okay, but coming to the main point, at the aforesaid polling station, Ms. Akhtar gave out lollipops to children accompanying their parents or guardians to vote. This is some serious bribery, guys.
Oh dear.
Organised crime. I'm
Does
telling
this
you. Mr. Corleone is out of business.
Oh.
Enter Lutfur Rahman. Seriously. I mean, he's got an army of kids voting for him. I mean, I didn't know kids can vote in the UK. What's the minimum age, guys?
I don't know.
I think Bangladeshi Muslims must be really, really daft to say, I'm going to vote for the guy who just gave me a lollipop. That's really the issues on which people
Or I'm going to vote for the guy who gave my child a lollipop.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, or I'm going to remember this, and when he or she is 18, I'm going to get them to vote for Mr. Lutfur Rahman, if he's still, competing or in the elections. There's one more, okay, and it needs to be said. If I can find that exact quote again, Lutfur Rahman says in his tweet, case now includes claims of spiritual intervention in the election. So case now in what does that mean? All right, well, let's again go back to the text where these allegations are being made in official documents in the investigation.
Does UK law take into account spiritual activities and as a form of evidence?
Oh, I mean, it seems that it's a very serious issue right now. Apparently, voting for the first respondent would be a virtuous and Islamic act. This is what Mayor Lutfo's team have been apparently telling people, that if you vote for me, God will reward you. God will reward you. And that is the reason why.
And that is a criminal act.
That is the reason why the others lost, guys.
I mean, these are real allegations that they're actually putting through, isn't it? It's not.
These are actually
I mean, we are
on
joking
their
about it, but
documents.
this is actually real. Isn't
I don't understand what first respondent means and all the other, stuff that is on these documents, right? But I mean, this is directly from the official document.
I mean, sorry, I have to say another thing on that. I mean, there was another allegation that, and he mentioned that that Asian men were hanging on street corners just before the polling station that looked intimidating. Now, when sorry, I have to say something. Asian men, there is in Tower Hamlets, there are a lot of Asian people. For the mayor, for
listeners out there, when we say Asian, we mean South Asian.
No, but yeah. I mean,
Predominantly
no, that's not the point. Yeah, the point is that they got the mayor has Asian people, Labour has Asian people, Conservative has Asian people. Why, in that case, do we say that Asian men? That's it. We're going to label all Asians to be part of Hamlets first for voting for the mayor. I find it really racist.
Exactly. I mean, when you go, when you make that allegation that this is racist, then they say, "Oh my God, why are you making it a race issue?" Yet they are the ones with every statement that they make, every allegation that they've made. It's always been something ethnic or racist about it. They've made it a race issue. Mayor Lutfi was not fighting his campaign on race issues. You know, he's fighting it on housing, on student EMA.
He's obviously offered it open, his cabinet, to welcome in those from Labour, those from the Conservatives to come in to join him. And with the Labour talking about their one Tower Hamlets mantra, but yeah, I can't see any one Tower Hamlets.
PR, mate. It's just PR.
You know what? I'm going to have to really come in here because I've been sitting and listening, and I think I'm with Brother Zain on this one.
By the way,
the producer finally made his stance.
Yeah.
But I mean, I saw the look on the Brother Zain's face, the disbelief and the disarray of some of his allegations, and you know, it just really kind of disheartened me because you know the whole community has kind of got to a stage where it took years and years of hard work to even get a Bengali/Muslim to come out and vote in the first place, and for all these kind of allegations to come about. I don't know, someone like me, I mean, I wouldn't be bothered voting next time round. I mean, and I was born in this country, and, you know, I actually thought voting makes a difference. But if after I vote and something like this comes about, yeah, where there's going to be like a dig at my religion saying that, you know, this and that, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm not bothered. Yeah, I mean, what's going on? I mean, do they want us to vote or don't they want us to vote? I mean, they need to make the money.
No, they want you to vote, but as long as the end outcome is not an ethnic minority.
This is what they call gutter politics, and it's worse than gutter politics because they are not bordering only on the fringe of racism and you know, that kind of racially charged kind of language. It is clearly and patently racist to be introducing and talking about this man and his supporters, and that is, by the way, a majority of the people who
when they talk about his whole cabinet being just Bangladeshis and that not being representative of the whole community, but then you look at other councils and other boroughs where the whole cabinets are just white.
Yeah.
Are they not representative of their diverse community?
And at this point that Brother Zain made about, you know, Asian men, you know, waiting for their results to see if their candidate won and they were cheering him on, I thought, what's wrong with that? I mean, I looked at, you know, election races in the United States of America. When the president wins and he comes out with his wife, the First Lady, there is a massive crowd out there on the lawn of the White House. Huge crowd. People screaming, people trying to dive the railing to touch the president and shake his hand.
And this time around when Obama did win it, you had more black people coming on the streets. Or was that racist? Was that something that is supposed to be looked down on or frowned upon?
And that's the point, really. I mean, they had to have police to control all of those elections. I mean, it's necessary because people get passionate, people care about their country, and people vote for very passionately.
They're politically active,
and that's really where I'm gonna hit the nail on that head. I don't know if you guys want to wrap it up. My point is, you know, when a brother gets politically active, gets educated, starts going places, and I'm sure Brother Hakeem, he would have said it much nicer and better than me. When a brother starts going places, starts to become recognized, out in the field, going up. Right, yeah, and doing the let's put in inverted commas what is classically seen as a white man's job. Okay, when a brother starts doing that, they don't like it. They'd much rather prefer that the ethnic minorities stay dealing drugs, you know, shooting each other in gang warfare,
stay in the ghettos,
okay, and being uneducated, unemployed, you know, killing each other off. They much prefer that status quo. And the moment that changes, and this is what, again, our producer was really alluding to here, is people started to say, no, we're going to make our voice be heard in legitimate ways, okay? And we're going to, you know, be a part of this system that you guys set up. And here people are coming
integration?
out. Yeah, people coming out, and that's exactly the thing. You guys need to give up your differences, put down your guns, and put down your, illegal methods. Come into the political, arena, and make your, your goals come true through the political method. I'm just looking at this now and thinking that's all a load of lies. Okay, a load of codswallop. Okay,
so democracy is just only for the elite.
That's right.
For those who are the chosen ones to be in power.
That's correct. And I see a new tweet that's just been put out by Mayor Lutfur Rahman. He said here, me and my team are accused of every offence imaginable, but to date the only charge for fraud, the only one charged, I believe he meant to say, for fraud is a Tory candidate, not from his party but from the current party in power. Okay, so he's been accused of everything in the book. I mean, to the extent you're getting people being accused
character
of
assassination. It's simple as that.
Yeah,
and to malign
and the BBC to have come down onto local issues. I mean, Borough of Tower Hamlets, guys. I mean, seriously, that needs to become. That's going to go on national.
What other borough has had Dispatches and Panorama do an expose on the mayor or on the politics of a local council?
I think they've done him a great favour. As a result, he's become very popular. All right, I didn't know much about him, to be honest with you, and I didn't think he was doing any good. And I'm very cynical, and you guys can probably tell I'm very cynical about politics and stuff like that, and the kind of power systems that they've already set up. But when I watched Panorama, I thought they were going to have some sort of serious damning stuff, and it's going to be another one of those smear against the Muslim community and the Bangladesh community. But it turned out they were, they had nothing.
They just highlighted his good work,
and all they said was, they gave him an opportunity, and he spoke, and he said, he's made more new homes in the borough of Tower Hamlets than any other part of the UK. All right, he's the only borough, I think, that's still.
They've won awards,
and he's won awards for housing and things like this. He's also made sure that students still get their education maintenance allowance, which has been scrapped by the current government in power today. So he's made sure that he's used the council funds to encourage students to go and stay in education with EMA. I mean, there's a list of great stuff that he's done.
Just because we were naming all these good stuff that the mayor done, it's not that we're supporting him in any manner or whatever it is there. But these are the things, these are factual things that he's actually done. So again, I think we're coming near to the end of the show. Yeah, so I think
it looks like nobody did call in, so nobody took my lollipops.
Okay, yeah, nobody took those lollipops.
I think they're all afraid of being accused of taking bribes. You see, they don't want to be associated to the mafia like the Security Council. Whoops, am I allowed to say that, guys?
Okay, we'll leave that for another show. Actually, just to all the listeners, I'd like to say that this is a new station. We've just recently kind of set up the Middlepath radio station. I would like everyone that is listening, to share our stations with your friends, families, and people that you know. Tell them to download it. Tell them to listen to us. And very soon, we will have a list, a scheduling for shows and other shows and so forth, and we will let you know. So make sure you're on Twitter and you follow I think it's called
Middlepath Radio. It's at Middlepath Radio, one word.
There you go, at Middlepath Radio. And also do share your thoughts and on our shows, the Café, Ikhwan, and also soon to be the Security Council. Yep.
There's also the every Saturday we have an Islamic lecture series. Okay, that's not a current affairs shows. It is a series of talks on Islamic knowledge and Islamic sciences. Okay, and spiritual studies. It is following a classical text on Islamic theology, okay? And it's called Madarij al-Salikin. For those of you who are interested, I definitely recommend everybody tune in every Saturday, 7:30 on a weekly basis, to listen to Ustad Khidir, a graduate from Azhar University, take us through the Arabic text, Madarij al-Salikin. And again, record our number. It's 07477 080 248. That's 07477 080 248. Follow us on Twitter at Middlepath Radio. Download our app on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. It's MP Radio.
If you want us to talk about anything specific throughout the week, do text in or WhatsApp your thoughts and your suggestions. And I mean, we had two or three things we wanted to talk about, but time was so short, and we had a very busy schedule. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we were going to speak about was Gaza, but
I guess we have to defer that to the Security Council.
Yeah, probably have to defer that, but yeah, and that, and also the I think the Pentagon data details as well.
That's quite an important one.
Yeah, but anyway,
I mean, that's true. I mean, we'll deal with some of those. So, I mean, again, guys, don't be shy. Give us a call. Nobody's going to be able to see your face. That's why I'm on radio. Otherwise, we'd all be doing TV. Okay, so
that would crack the screens.
yeah, and then you probably wouldn't never tune in. So, I mean, we've got other shows. This is a bilingual radio station, so there are some Bangladeshi shows that will be happening in Bengali, an Islamic talk show, a Q&A show, on fiqh, and then there will be another show on current affairs in Bangla. So if those of you who have a family and friends who speak Bangla, definitely tell them to download our app and take our number as well, because those are going to be some busy shows and very, very interesting indeed. Mr. Producer, is there any last words that you'd like to add before, any disclaimers, any kind of denials that you'd like to make just before the station gets taken off air? I mean, we've got the backing of the Security Council anyway, so we should be all right.
He's just nodding his head saying no. I think we'll end it here. So
Jazakallah khair to everybody. Inshallah, really, really appreciate it, especially our VIP guest who spoke to us earlier, Mr. Trevor Hakim, Brother Trevor Hakim, and most of all our listeners who tuned in. And be sure to tell everybody, like us, subscribe, one of those kind of things to the end of the show.
Just go crazy.
Go crazy. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.